He was just a prophet. Right?
No. We don't even believe he was a prophet.
What do you think he was? What do you guys think he was?
What do I think he was historically? I think he was a Jew who tried to lead a revolt against the Romans and got killed for his trouble.
Hi, today we're looking at Ben Shapiro's views on Jesus. What are the strengths and weaknesses of his position, and how this discussion shows us a really interesting paradox about the death of Jesus. So look, if you enjoy this video and think I've represented Ben's views fairly and respectfully, please let me know by liking this video. And if you think there's something I've overlooked in Ben's position, please leave a comment below. But now let's look at what Ben Shapiro says on the Joe Rogan Podcast.
Jewish point of view, where we don't believe in the divinity of Christ. I think that there you can make an argument that the Gospels, which were written...
He was just a prophet. Right?
No. We don't even believe he was a prophet.
What do you think he was? What do you guys think he was?
What do I think he was historically? I think he was a Jew who tried to lead a revolt against the Romans and got killed for his trouble. Just like a lot of other Jews at that time who were crucified for trying to lead revolts against the Roman and got killed for their trouble.
So he became legend in story, and it became a bigger and bigger deal as time went on.
Yeah, he had a group of followers, and then that gradually grew, and then...
So you can see here that Ben Shapiro is talking with Joe Rogan, and he says that Jesus was a failed insurrectionist who was crucified by the Romans because of this failed insurrection. Now, there are some strengths to Ben's position, and that is Jesus' death on the cross is the death of insurrectionists. This is how the Romans dealt with terrorists or insurrectionists. Now, this is also supported by the fact that Jesus is crucified next to two insurrectionists. You see, in our Bibles it says that Jesus is crucified with robbers, but the Greek term here actually references a terrorist, an anarchist, an insurrectionist. And so Jesus is dying the death of an insurrectionist, and he's dying alongside other insurrectionists. So there is a strength to Ben's position here. However, there is a point that Ben has overlooked here. And this produces a paradox for Jesus' death. You see, the majority of scholars actually don't believe that Jesus was an insurrectionist for two main points. The first is, when we look at Jesus' teaching, he teaches the love of enemies, and he teaches the path of nonviolence. So how could Jesus teach about nonviolence but then pick up a sword and try and overthrow the Romans? These two things don't square up. Now, secondly, although the Romans do crucify Jesus as an insurrectionist, they do not arrest any of his disciples or crucify any of his disciples. Now, this is quite peculiar, because if Jesus was a violent insurrectionist, the Romans quite clearly would have gone after his disciples. But it actually takes the Romans decades and decades and decades before they even consider persecuting Jesus' disciples. And so because of this, we have a paradox with Jesus' death. Yes, he dies the death of an insurrectionist, and yes, he dies alongside other insurrectionists. But actually, no one in the story believes that he's an insurrectionist. The high priest don't, Pilate doesn't, neither do the Roman soldiers. And this is because no one goes after his disciples. So there's this really fascinating paradox in Jesus' death. He dies the death of an insurrectionist, but everyone knows that he's not. Now, if you want to explore more about the life and death of Jesus, I'll put a link down below to N.T. Wright's Simply Jesus, which for me is the best entry-level book on who Jesus is and why his ministry and his death is so important. Now, if you want to explore the theological implications of Jesus' death, I've actually done a video on that, which you can access here.